Ladies and gentlemen, it is undoubtedly a fact now. Even Trump's greatest supporters are beginning to get worried about him. And they've realized that even if he's not on the losing side, he's certainly not winning this. And the reason for this is because Trump is changing its goalposts. America has begun changing its goalposts. Let me tell you how. They're changing the agenda. They're not talking about regime change anymore. They're changing the goalpost itself, which is a sign that they're losing confidence. They're not in control. They don't know what's next. They're not working to a clear strategy. On day one, when Trump launched Operation Epic Fury, he said it was to defend the American people against the imminent threats of the Iranian regime. He said, "When we are finished, take over your government."
To the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Superman type instruction going on there. Nobody listened to him. On day two, he went with the wind, and Donald Trump spoke about regime change.
And I will not allow a terrorist regime to hold the world hostage and attempt to stop the globe's oil supply. And if Iran does anything to do that, they'll get hit at a much, much harder level. I will take out those targets that were easy and that I mentioned just before. We'll take them out so quickly.
Earlier, they spoke about self-determination by the Iranians. Then they started to talk about regime change. Then on day three, Pete Hegseth came out, his defense secretary, and says this is not about regime change, so he contradicted Trump.
Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change.
On day four, Karen Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said it's about targeting military infrastructure. It's not about regime change.
The president's posture and our military posture has not changed. The president was just simply raising a question that I think many people around the world are asking. If the Iranian regime refuses to give up their nuclear program or engage in talks, we just took out their nuclear program on Saturday night, as you all know. But if they refuse to engage in diplomacy moving forward, why shouldn't the Iranian people rise up against this brutal terrorist regime? That's a question the president raised last night. But as far as our military posture, it hasn't changed.
Now, by day six, Trump said that I want to have a say at least in who takes over after Khomeini. He took offense to Khomeini's son, calling him a lightweight, and especially doubled down on the regime change motive. He said, we don't want to put in somebody there unless it is approved by us. But by day 10, America once again made it about the objective being military. Now they said no regime change, no self-determination, we don't care, we just want to damage their military infrastructure. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, the America that was slapping its hands about nuclear weaponizing as the basis and reason for taking out Khomeini maneuvered and changed the line to regime change, and now they are saying, no, we don't want to do regime change, we don't care. We just want to destroy a little bit of their military infrastructure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here are 5 reasons which make it amply clear to me and to the Republic Media Network that America is totally unclear and out of control, despite everything that Fox News may say. They're out of control in what they are claiming they want to do in Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, 5 reasons. 1, regime change, fear of Iranian nukes, or military. America is unclear on its own objectives. The United States, we are observing right now, appears unclear about its own objectives in the war with Iran. America entered this war with no single answer to one question: why are we here? Even now, Trump does not have a clear, unambiguous answer, why are we here, to the American people. Secondly, the Iranians are not caving in on leadership. Despite pressure from Washington, Iranians are showing no signs of caving in on leadership. Donald Trump called Ayatollah Mujtaba Khomeini a lightweight and unacceptable, but Tehran responded by appointing him as their supreme leader. Thousands of supporters gathered in Tehran waving Iranian flags and his portraits. And now the likes of Larijani are now turning it on Trump, telling Trump, be careful to not be eliminated. Because every day Trump comes out and he threatens to now assassinate Khamenei's son, the new Ayatollah, the new supreme leader. And the Iranians are now saying that be careful that you're not eliminated. Point number 3, Tehran is not coming in on the negotiation table. They're totally unwilling. Abbas Araghchi has firmly shut the door on talks with the US, saying, we don't see any reason to negotiate with the US because every time we did, they attacked with negotiations. Inside sources in Washington are saying Trump needs a way out. But the Iranians, on the contrary, are saying negotiating with the US is no longer on the agenda. In fact, Larijani himself dismissed Donald Trump as delusional, while their deputy foreign minister said Iran is not sending any message to Washington because it is busy defending itself. The fourth point is, and this is telling, Trump has started to bank more on hope than certainty. 10 days into the war, now it's day 11, Trump is speaking less in strategy and more in hope. He claims that the US is ahead of the timeline and promised the war would soon bring oil prices for American families. But officials briefed on the conflict say his administration lacks a rationale, endgame, or plan for what comes after. But most importantly, the sign that Trump is not winning this is the narrative war. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Elizabeth Warren emerged from a classified government briefing and went directly to camera with this. She said, it is so much worse than you thought. You are right to be worried. The Trump administration has no plan in Iran. This illegal war is based on lies. It was launched without any imminent threat on our nation. Even within his inner circle, J.D. Vance is completely quiet. His own vice president is not with him in this. Marco Rubio is quote-unquote scrambling to build a long-term strategy. The only person who seems to be setting the narrative for Trump, and there's no worse news than this, is his unhinged defense secretary.
The mullahs are desperate and scrambling. Like the terrorist cowards they are, they fire missiles from schools and hospitals, deliberately targeting innocents. On day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, we are winning, with an overwhelming and unrelenting focus on our objectives, which are the same as the day I gave my first briefing here on Operation Epic Fury.
Ladies and gentlemen, if the President of the United States is not winning the narrative, then he is drowning with it. And therefore, we, across the world, and especially in Asia, need to discontinue believing anything the Western propaganda is putting out for you. The Western propaganda, the Western media, they've had it too good for too long. It is time to challenge their hegemony. They're a representative of the same delusional approach that Trump has right now. They're just going along embedded with Trump. If they're criticizing him, it is for local reasons, for Americans, local reasons that we are not interested in. As far as the rest of the world is concerned, particularly Asia, we are seeing America change its goalpost. These incidents in the last 10 days and whatever happens in the next 10, mark my words, the world order is changing right before our eyes. Right before our eyes. The change is happening right here and right now.